presidents or something. Oh, we're live. We're on the air.
Welcome crazy presidents.
Crazy presidents all over the place. Welcome to the Daytripper photo show. You probably won't see this for 11 seconds because there's a delay, but I'm talking
We'll see it
now. We'll see it. We're living in the now. Welcome to the Daytripper photo show. This is episode number 193. Today is a tips and techniques show, and that means we're going to try and teach you something. We have some cool things to talk about, but before I start blabbing, let's introduce our co-hosts. Right beside me, Mr. Philip Zerato. Good day, sir.
Hello.
Hello. You have a good week?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
What was your highlight of the week? Put you on the spot. You're supposed to say working with me at Henry's.
Something. No, you know what I was gonna say? I shot something, and I like shooting it. On the weekend, I shot some pictures with my aunt and my second aunt. I'm not sure how that relationship works. Sister of aunt, second aunt, whatever. With them, it was kind of nice. Drove around.
Sister of your aunt would be your other aunt.
And that's what I thought. So, but anyway, went around, took some pictures. It was great. A lot of fun.
Or your mother. Sister of your aunt could be your mother.
Something along that line. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Took pictures with family.
Important parts is we took pictures.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was good. What was the best part of your week? You were talking about the Vaughn Film Festival earlier.
Well, not necessarily the best part of my week, but it was fun today.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the Vaughn Film Festival relaunch. They just come out with a new logo, and they have a whole new strategy, and it looks pretty exciting. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, I shot their relaunch this morning. It was pretty fun. It's only about an hour, and I did a little Facebook Live from there. But that was pretty cool.
Right on.
How about you, Michael?
There we go.
What do you think? How was your week? What's been exciting? I know you did some shooting as you were joining the show. You were doing shooting.
The highlight for me seems to be complete lack of sleep this entire week. I've had shifts at work every morning and a photo shoot every night.
Oh.
So I haven't really sat down.
So you're doing all this shooting in preparation for something?
I'm doing a lot of shooting in preparation for the class. I've been bouncing a ton of concepts at a time. I've had everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. There goes
has gone wrong.
Shows how much sleep I got. There goes my speaking skills. So I'm just crunching for the big test and doing everything. I'm shooting everyone. I got all my friends together. They're all up in costume doing crazy ideas for me. Luckily, it's turning out really cool and a lot of fun.
That's cool. And that's the key. I mean, we all do this to have fun, so it's nice when you can work at something hard and it's still just as fun.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, well, let's get into some of the notes here. We have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. I don't want to spend too much time just kind of hootenanny stuff. Hootenanny stuff. Is that real?
I don't know.
I think that's a Phil word. Sounds like a Phil word.
It sounds like something I would say, but I'm unsure.
But I'm unsure. All right. If you guys haven't already, please check out the Daytripper photo community on Google+. We have a lot of fun in that. I mean, a lot of people post things that they want to get out and shoot. Of course, we talk about the day trips that we run, all the little things that we do in Daytripper photo. That's our hub. That's our community. And there's a lot of people. I know pretty much everybody by name. And it's a lot of fun when you have a group of people who have like-minded things like that. You can have something in common and get out there and do some cool stuff with. And also be able to watch our show, contribute in our photo challenge, which the current photo challenge is fall. Not a lot of photos, but Vero posted a shot. Did you guys see Veronique's photo for fall?
No, we'll check it out now.
Down? Yeah, it's beautiful. Family, just like our family, up on a rock ledge, and she threw the leaves up with this long exposure, self-timer, and jumped in the shot, and the leaves were falling down. It was really, really nice. So good job, Vero. Fall could mean something to everybody. It could be the colors. It could be somebody falling. It could be, anything. Yeah. So anyway, I'm really anxious to see what people can muster for this photo challenge, and that's all done in the Daytripper photo community. Also, if you like our show, please click like. You're watching the YouTube thing right now, just go right down where Phil's pointing.
I feel like you need to do that.
What are you pointing at? I mean,
I don't know. Every once in a while I watch a video and they'll be like, and today we're going to be making a coffee mug on the lathe, and remember to like and subscribe. And so Everyone points, so I'm pointing.
Okay, well, maybe we should do coffee mugs or something.
We could. I have a lathe that is highly unsafe.
Definitely not like Ghost, is it? Definitely.
No, it's big and it's probably got like a 0.5 horsepower motor or something on it. It's really probably not a great thing to use. It works really well though.
There's a whole Daytripper photo class involved in something like that. Anyway, yeah,
Those
click
are on
like,
tripod.
subscribe to our YouTube channel so every time we do one of these shows, you get some notification of it, and share it. Maybe tell your friends that we're doing the show. I enjoy doing it. I hope you guys enjoy doing it. So far, so good. No comment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Smile and wave. Smile and wave.
Yeah. And of course, don't forget, if you are watching this live, please feel free to chat to us using the YouTube chat. You can see Ivan says, hello, folks. Hi, folks. Actually, I want to quote him accurately. If you have anything to say, post it right there. We're going to see it within about 11 seconds after you type it, because there seems to be an 11-second lag between these. So, yeah, definitely talk to us. Let us know what you're thinking. If you like our what we're trying to teach, then you can tell us. Or if you have a question about what we're teaching, if you want to ask a question about maybe you missed something we did or whatever, we can elaborate by you letting us know. Also, I want to thank our sponsors, Sennheiser, LensPen, Cotton Carrier, and of course, Sigma Lenses from Gentech in Markham. All great gear, and it's all stuff that we're giving away for our weekly photo challenge. Actually, coming up on the 19th, I believe, is the quarterly final. So giving all kinds of our prizes away for the quarterly final. The $350 Daytripper photo gift certificate, which can be used for any Daytripper session, including private one-on-one or group sessions. And right to the end of 2017, Island Overnight 2017 schedule's up. If anybody wants to lock off one of the 5 spots for that session, please go and do that right away. We had 3 people this past year. Judging by the reaction of the photos that we saw, the Aurora Borealis and so on, excuse me, lots of other people have expressed interest. So check it out. There's only 5 spots available for that one. And Cotton Carrier. I was using tons of Cotton Carrier stuff today. In fact, on my Facebook Live, I tried to hold my phone so you could see the holsters, and I think all you saw was my shirt. But whatever. I love them. Cotton Carrier holster and hand strap makes my day easy. Do you guys use them? Please say yes.
I don't.
Nope.
Mainly because I bought a Black Rapid strap, and it's worked really well for me. I used to have a Spider holster, which was the one I had seemed like a really good design of eventually dropping your camera. And so I like the Cotton Carrier system better. So if I needed that padding my hip, that's definitely the one I'd go for, especially because the design's significantly better. But I don't tend to do a lot of shooting where I need to have it stuck to me. But I do like the hand strap. That's something I've been thinking about. Yeah. Because there was a picture of me, and I'm going to see if I can find it very quickly, which probably won't happen. Over the last couple days, actually, I was mentioning I was out shooting. Sorry, I'm typing at the same time, which is not a good thing. I turn into like a 90-year-old when I'm typing. Yeah, my vamping's not going well. I'll find the picture and I'll post it. Basically, I probably should have had a hand strap. It would have been safer.
Well, there's a lot of conditions where it is. I know for me, I had 2 cameras on at a time, and definitely having that one on my hip was making it straightforward. But we kind of have sponsors, so maybe I should talk about maybe hooking up a brother. What do you got there?
That'd be nice. I'm just trying to show the pictures. So my aunt took this picture of me trying to take a picture of something floating in the water. You can tell, no strap, hand, just straight up hand holding. It's not a great safe idea, making settings adjustments and shot didn't really work out, but that's okay.
Why not? What were you trying for?
I don't really know. I had this idea, and it was kind of windy, and the thing was blowing around everywhere.
Nice. It's funny. I'm trying to find a photo of you, but use Google Photos, Phil. See if that works. When we were up in Algonquin Park and Tom Devan grabbed you by the ankles and almost threw you in the water.
Yes.
That was classic. But of course, I'll never find the photo when I need it. So, Michael, anything to add? Any kind of experience using a Cotton Carrier? Or Any of that
I
stuff?
have no experience with cotton carrier, but out of my own preference, I'm kind of tempted to go Blake's route of having a little bit of everything ever.
He totally
He
does.
he totally shocked me when I saw his camera had a spider holster clip with a Black Rapid and a Peak Design clip
Yeah,
on it.
he loves it all.
So
Blake is awesome.
I'm using Peak Design. I actually traded my Black Rapid strap for Blake's Peak Design wrist strap. So
Hmm.
I'm waiting for my chance to get a spider holster.
Be
I have
careful
one
of the little
somewhere.
The
bulb.
speed of one.
Yeah, I'll happily send you mine when I find it.
There you go.
I'm
Gear
entirely
trade.
okay with this.
And we have to be careful. Sometimes when you get out shooting, I mean, you have to make sure you hold on to your gear because you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you could be doing fine 1 minute, and then the next minute, all of a sudden, you might just end up clunking your head off the side of an air conditioning unit and knocking yourself to the ground. You just don't know.
That is many pairs of glasses ago.
That was awesome. That was at where was that? That was
Somewhere up near Barrie.
Edgar.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the security tried chasing us out and you took off like a bat out of hell. Phil goes running past me. I run after him. I turn the corner. There he is on the ground. Phil, what's going on? We're running from the security, not laying down from the security.
Well,
Okay.
to be fair, we were running from a non-marked pickup truck of some sort.
Yeah, we didn't technically know it was security.
Probably just some other guy there.
All right, let's get into teaching some stuff, guys. Before we run too long and can't actually talk about anything. So let's get into this. Tips and techniques show. It means we educate. We give tips to our viewers. You can use in your day-to-day. So I thought for editing, why don't we give 3 tips, one from each of us, maybe almost more than one if we have time, on editing that's kind of changed how we do things. So if you guys are watching and you have something to say to us, please go right ahead and do so. We're going to get into this. I'm going to get into high pass sharpening. Then Phil is actually going to do kind of the reverse of what I'm talking about, which is going to be kind of cool. And then Michael's going to close it up with his blend if function. Blend if is a really cool tool that he's kind of hinted at a few times on the show already. We've been waiting for the right time to get into it in a little more detail. That's why we're going to close off with Michael because, I don't know, maybe I have a brain of a 2-year-old, but I have a hard time keeping up sometimes. So it's going to be cool. No, the neat part about this is this is what Michael's going to – you ever do that when like you have 40 words in your mouth and they just kind of all fall out at the same time? Anyway, Michael's going to use a lot of these techniques when he teaches his masterclass on composite photography coming up on November the 6th of 2016. Yes, so that's what he's preparing for. That's what he's getting all busy and shooty. He's getting all shooty for.
Yep.
That's the technical word. Okay, so why don't I do a screen share here and go into this, what I call, what everybody calls, high-pass sharpening. High-pass sharpening is essentially a way to get away from that really over-contrasty, over-sharpened look that you can get in editing, whether it's Lightroom or Photoshop. It's pretty straightforward. Now, first of all, to understand it, I'm just going to quickly go over what high-pass sharpening or what sharpening itself does. Actually, Photoshop calls it unsharp masking, which is interesting to me. Essentially, it creates edge contrast by essentially sandwiching a sharp negative and an unsharp negative to enhance that edge contrast. Now, enhancing edge contrast, that kind of doesn't sound right, does it, guys? I mean, you don't really want to make more contrast, does it?
On a very small scale, maybe.
A very small scale. And that's the problem, Phil, because a lot of people, when they get into sharpening, they don't think small. You know, it's go big or go home. You want to sharpen your photo, right? Crank up the sharpening, and then you post it, and you end up with this blotchy mess that everybody's like, oh, dude, you totally over-sharpened that. So, or is that just me? I don't know. Could be.
Yeah, I think you're speaking from experience.
I think it's personal experience. But anyway, let me share screen 1 here. And what I have open is on this side, the side that's moving, this is Adobe Lightroom. And over here, I have Adobe Photoshop. And you can see I've kind of zoomed in. These are both unedited shots. Now, it's funny because I don't know if everybody can tell this at home, and I'm not expecting everybody to see every detail. So I'm going to go big with my edit just so that you can actually see the difference it makes. But already, Photoshop from camera raw to open has a bit of a more saturated look. And that could be in a preset. I don't think so because I don't really have any of them. But the reason I chose this photo specifically is because A, it's not perfectly sharp. B, there's a lot of writing in the background and you can see how it gets very chunky very easily. And C, there's a lot of detail in the belt and in the beard and the face. So I think this is going to work well for this. All right. Now, what you do for high pass sharpen is essentially make a copy of a layer and then work on the copy or the extra layer. So I'm going to use my background layer. With a Mac, it's Command J, and it duplicates the layer. If you have a PC, then it's Option J, I believe.
Control.
Control J, thank you. And I haven't used a PC in 10 years. So
it's okay.
The hair missing from the top of my head, that's from when I used to use PC.
Pull it all out.
Yeah, totally. You can't see me, but I just pulled nothing out of my hair because I'm wearing a hat. Anyway, so I've made my copy of a layer. So I have my background layer and I have my layer 1. Now you got to make sure that layer 1 is chosen, because if your background layer is chosen, this is just not going to work. All right. So got my layer chosen. I am merely going to go up here to where it says filter, and I'm going to choose other, and other, and then high pass. Now, this is going to allow me to adjust how much of this effect I'm trying to add to the photo. Now, they say, as in the articles that I've read, you want to go to around 10 points. Now, 10 pixels. I'm not for that. That's like way too much. If you looked at what 10 pixels looks like on here, there's about 9.5, 9.7, whatever. You can pretty much see the whole photo. And the idea is you only want to see the outline. You only want to see the edges of that shot. So if I bring this down, in this case, maybe 1.2, maybe even a little less, 0.8, 1, or 1. There we go. I'm starting to just see the edges of that now. And in my experience, that's going to work well. However, I already said I'm going to go big. So I'm going to overdo this one, go to maybe 3.7 here so everybody can see the effect this is going to make. So I hit OK. And now I've got this overlay effect. Now, initially, through my past reading and my experience using this, I've used the hard light layer. And you can see over here you have your choice in the little menu, just your little drop-down menu. And you can choose whichever option you want. So I've always used hard light. Now, talking with my colleagues here, they seem to like overlay. So, Michael, why don't you quickly go into the difference between hard light and overlay for us?
Now, the actual math of it I'm not entirely confident on, but hard light typically has a much stronger edge contrast than you're going to get with overlay. So if you were to use overlay, as far as using high pass sharpening goes, is your middle ground, it's your medium, and it's usually the starting point for a lot of people. From that point, if you go to hard light, it's going to be much crispier and much harder contrast, much more texture.
So you think on
soft light's much softer.
On a cleaner image, you could probably get away with hard light better. Where a chunkier image, you want to stick it not so obvious right off the bat.
Yeah, if it's a matter of having a higher radius or just selecting a smaller radius and only isolating the specific things you want to show that fine texture, but you want more of it, it's better to change the blending mode than the radius. Got it.
So we're going to try overlay here. And when you add that, it automatically just gives a nice richness and a pop to the shot. You can see between the two, there's a lot more detail, but there's too much. So this is where we go back and we choose the opacity and just bring that down. You can just drag this lower, 40 to 30, let's say 20 to 40% is where I would usually drag that down to. Ultimately, you have to do it by your photo. You have to gauge it by the shot you make. So if we look up here now, one thing that I noticed when I was testing this theory earlier is if I go into Lightroom and I do the same kind of sharpening, which I'm going to do quickly, and then I'm going to compare the detail. What I would normally do with sharpening in Lightroom is first I would use the masking tool, and there's a little trick. No, sorry, it's not a trick. It's just something people should know. Right, Phil?
Yes.
You hold the Option key down as you're doing this, and you do the masking, and it goes white. And as you start to drag that over, you start to notice only the bits that you really want to add sharpening to. Although, in my understanding, you don't want to go too far. And why is that, Phil?
Because what that is going to do is adjust the level of your sharpness across the image. So the higher the number, the less effective that actual sharpening adjustment is going to be. So if you make it too high, you're not really going to be doing anything.
But at the same time, you don't want to apply the sharpening to the entire image. So there's a middle ground you got to find.
Absolutely. And you ideally want to look for the detail and the information that you actually want to try and crisp up without going too far.
Got it. Okay, so for this argument, we're just going to go to about 74. Now, there's also the radius and the detail sliders that you can play with to, the radius would increase the radius around the pixels, I believe. The radius of the pixels you're actually adjusting.
Pixels are the edges of what you're adjusting, yes.
And then the detail would give you more detail around those pixels.
It changes the details can be included in the sharpening. So the higher the value, the more fine detail will actually be included in the sharpening.
There you go. So again, for this argument, I don't want to make it too chunky, but I do want to get it a little sharper than it is. So I'll kind of play with these settings a little bit to try and get a good result. Now, if we go up here, this is what I noticed before. I didn't really overdo the sharpening. Excuse me. You can see it's really not sharp. And I don't know if you can tell through the video, but all around the eyes, the pupils are extremely blotchy. Where over here, I mean, you can see that the contrast is bigger, but there's not that blotchiness around the eye. And that's the huge difference I find using high-pass filter versus sharpening in Lightroom, is that you actually have a little bit more control. So Phil said it best when we were having our pre-discussion. I think Lightroom is great for sharpening, and you can do a lot of great things in it, but when you want to take it to that next level, the extra 10%, as we always say, pop it over to Photoshop and use the high-pass sharpen, and that can do a really good job for you as well. Anything else to add there, guys?
Nope.
A little quick tip?
No, sounds good.
Awesome. All right, so high-pass sharpening. Let's see if anybody has any comments. Let's go up here. Oh, Phil says hello. All right, good. No comments.
Responding.
All right. So, Phil, why don't you talk about this other way of sharpening?
Absolutely. As soon as I get things to pop up here. Well, it's not so much sharpening. It's actually the opposite of sharpening.
The anti-sharpening.
Exactly. That would be the softening of what we're trying to do. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to cooperate because I only have one screen, and I want to show two different pieces of software. So we're going to see what happens. It'll be interesting. That's what we want to go to first. Pop that up there. And so let's say we shoot a portrait. And in your case, we shot a portrait and we had a subject that we wanted to make a little sharper. But in some cases, you might actually want to add a little bit of softness. In this case, I want to add a bit of softness to her skin just to kind of blend everything together. I mean, there's a ton of ways we can do this. There's two quick ways we can do this. The first quick way is going to be inside of Lightroom where we are here. Now, Lightroom has a lot of really cool features in it, but what we're going to look at today is on this top bar here.
Okay, hang on a sec, Phil, before you go any further. I think you're sharing the wrong screen.
Okay.
I think if you share screen 1 and then click on the program, it'll show all the windows.
That's Photoshop. This is Lightroom. So I only have this to share. Or you mean like my normal, like this one?
Yeah, when you hit screen sharing,
it's
just go to window 1.
So that's my desktop.
Your desktop.
Okay. Now I'm just going to drag that over so we just see the one screen.
You don't want to see what's on the other screen.
Is that working?
Yes, that's perfect.
Perfect.
As long as my face wasn't the one we're looking at, it's all good.
Okay. So now that we take a look at this, up in the top corner here, we have a lot of stuff on the sidebar. And these are all the tools we can use as we're editing in Lightroom. What we're going to do is I'm going to close some of these because we don't need to worry about some of them. Actually, a lot of them, to be honest. And so all I want to look at is this bar here. And this is going to be my crop tool, spot healing, red eye removal, graduated neutral density or graduated filter, radial filter, and brush tool. And I want to click on my brush tool. Now, the brush tool is a great tool in itself. Allows us to make adjustments to parts of a picture. We can paint on our adjustments. We have a point that we've made that adjustment that if we decide later we don't like it, we can always get rid of it. But it's also a very useful tool because it allows us to apply certain effects to a picture. We can use like an eye bump, teeth whitening, or in the case I'm looking for today, a little bit of skin softening. Now, if you have Lightroom, which hopefully you do, or else you can't follow along, there is an option for softening skin. Now, if we click the skin softening button, all it does, and I'm pointing at my screen, I'm going to use the mouse, is it lowers our clarity all the way, and it bumps up our sharpness just a tiny, tiny bit. And so all we're really doing is we're trying to preserve a little bit of information with sharpness, but with our clarity, all clarity does is remove mid-tone contrast, effectively adding 100% or completely removing mid-tone contrast. So we can either select soften skin, or we can go in and we can just drop our clarity adjustment on our adjustment brush, and we're ready to start softening skin. Now what we would do, we'd pick a brush of an appropriate size, and we simply paint our adjustment onto our subject, effectively reducing the mid-tone contrast and trying to make the skin. Now, normally you'd go around the hair and be a little bit pickier, but that's okay. Trying to make the skin appear a little bit softer. Now, in a pinch, no skin softening, it works okay. If I was trying to do a quick proof, I could go with something like this, and I'd be okay with it, depending. However, what we can do is we can get out of Lightroom, and we can go to Photoshop. Now, if you have Lightroom, if you right-click on the image, there's an Edit In option, and then you can actually click on Edit in Photoshop. Now, when you go to Edit in Photoshop, it comes up with 3 options. Edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments, edit a copy, and edit the original. For today, and for most of the time you're probably going to be doing this, ignore these 2. They don't matter. Go with edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. So if you've already spent 20 minutes trying to edit your picture in Lightroom and skin softening is the last thing you want to do, this will preserve that adjustment for you. Now, I'm going to close that because I've already have it open in Photoshop. Can you see it in Photoshop?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So once we get to Photoshop, we're actually going to do a very similar process to what Bryan did, but we're just going to take it in a different direction. First thing I want to do is I want to take my layer and I want to duplicate my layer. I could use the keyboard shortcut, or I could hit duplicate layer, depending on what I wanted to do, and I could call this layer whatever I wanted. Today, I feel like layer 0 copy is a great name. From that, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to filter, and we're going to drop down to other and select high pass. So it's very similar to what Bryan just did. Now, the biggest difference here is what we're going to do is we are going to find the detail that we kind of want to mask out. So where Bryan went to a very responsible setting of 2 to 3, I'm going to go up to a not great and not responsible level. Somewhere around, let's say, 9, maybe 8. For today, I'm going to go a little bit more ridiculous. I'm going to go a lot higher than I normally would, just so we can see this on the screen. So I'm going to pick a radius of 12. Normally, you're going to go lower than that, maybe somewhere around 8 to 9. And use your picture to judge. This is the detail you're effectively going to be removing from the picture. So I'm going to say, okay. Now I have my high pass on top of my picture. Now what I want to do is, because I don't want this to be a sharpened layer, I'm going to make it a soft layer. And I can make it a soft layer in one of 2 ways. I can, on my keyboard, hold Command and press I, or Control and press I to invert my picture. Or I can go up to, I don't remember where it is because I have not done it through this in a long time. Feel free to chime in if you remember where it is.
What are you looking for?
The not keyboard shortcut invert. I've not done that in a while. Anyway, somewhere up there. We're not going to worry about it because I just Command I.
Command I, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I think of.
Image adjustments. Invert. There we go. So we could do it the long way, or the much faster way is just to press Command I.
There's also an adjustment layer.
You could also do an adjustment layer that way as well. Now, what we want to do, just like Bryan did, we want to change our blended mode. We want to change our blend mode from normal all the way down to overlay. So right now I have a fuzzy picture on top of a good picture. Now what I want to do is, so that I can actually apply this fuzzy picture on top of my picture I want, I'm going to hold down my Option key, which on a PC should be the Alt key, and I'm going to click Add Layer Mask. And something kind of magical happens when I do that. The picture goes back to normal. And if I click this layer on and off, my picture doesn't change at all. Effectively, I have no adjustments and still no adjustments. And the reason behind that is I have these adjustments I need to apply to the image. Now, in order for me to apply these to the image, I'm going to go to my paintbrush tool, make sure I'm selected to white so I can apply things.
So before you go any further, white applies, black removes.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Now, what you want to do with a tool like this is you want to make sure that you have a brush that isn't hard. So you want something that has a nice soft edge to it. The reason behind that is it makes trying to paint this onto your subject a whole lot easier than if you had a super hard brush. So I'm just going to pick a brush that's a little too large. I'm going to paint the softness onto my subject. Now, I can be really picky and I can try and go around the eyes, or I can just paint over everything if I'm in a bit of a hurry. So I paint over everything, and now I have a layer of softness on top of my subject. Let's paint over everything. There we go. Layer of softness on top of my subject. Now, if this is too much softening, just like Bryan did, we can lower our opacity. And as we lower it, we'll have less and less of the effect. I'm going to keep it at 100 for now. So now that we have the softening applied to our subject, we need to clean it up. I've applied it everywhere, and I didn't do a very good job of it because it's on her mouth and her eyes and on her hair. I'm not going to worry about her hair. But if I zoom in to my shot, I can go back over to my color palette. And if I select the black color palette and an appropriate sized brush, I can paint off the adjustment. Originally got it on her eyes. I have selected something else. Originally got it on her eyes. I'm now going to go in and paint it off of her eyes. And yeah, you know what? Let's paint it off of her mouth as well, because it looked kind of funny being super soft. Now, normally you'd want to do a slightly better job and go a little slower. But in the interest of time, I'm going to do this a little quicker than I normally would. Yeah, good enough. And so when we take a look, we have our picture of our subject, and we've softened the skin a bit, albeit a little too far. But without it, we have a lot of poor detail, and we can see a lot of the kind of normal, stuff that shows up on your skin. We soften it a little bit, we can blend that out.
Yeah, and even here still, you can use the opacity and bring it down so it's not as obvious.
Absolutely. Because I was a little excited on the original adjustment, this is a little bit intense. So I could bring it down to something that's a bit more respectable. Maybe, depending how you like it, I'd say maybe 60%. We still have detail, but it's a little softer. And it's not subtracting away from anything. It's simply just a softer image. And if we compare the two, I hope this works. Hey, it's working. Is that on? No, I didn't paint it on yet. Just going to quickly paint this back on her face, because I don't know why I got rid of it. There we go. And if we compare the two of these, side, we'll see that the Lightroom option works, but it doesn't have as much control, and it's actually adding a layer of blandness to the shot. We're losing something here, and we're losing that because we're cutting out that mid-tone contrast, which is why and I don't know how well this shows up on the YouTube side of things, why the detail between the highlights and the shadow, it just kind of blends together, and we have a lightish spot a darkish spot, it doesn't look that great. Whereas on the one where we have the finer control, we did the inverted high pass or reverse high pass skin softening. It works. Pressing buttons. It worked out significantly better. We preserved a bit more of the underlying detail, and we ended up getting a little bit of a softer skin look. Now, you can take this in a couple extra directions. There's a couple extra steps you could go in that involve, I can never pronounce it correctly, Gaussian blur, and work that in and do stuff along that line. But for a quick and simple skin softening, reverse high pass from start to finish can be a very quick process, and it can be a very effective process.
No, the high pass tool is extremely helpful. Sharpening, softening, for portraiture, for extreme detail when you're doing macro photography or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Both sides of the coin are handy. And another really good benefit is the fact that you can save it and then go back and re-edit that layer anytime you want to.
Absolutely. And you can go back, because it's going to be an adjustment layer, you could go back in and let's say we were, again, slightly crazy on painting the softness onto our subject's face. We could, go back, maybe create a new layer, maybe convert things around, and then we could go back in. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do.
You won't like that one.
I clicked on the wrong thing. I want to click over here. And let's say I go in, I realize, hey, you know what? I got a little bit over here. I want it to go away. And I can do that, even if I created a new layer and made a couple other adjustments.
Right.
Very similar to the Lightroom side of things. Let's say this is my picture in Lightroom. I went in. I added a weird light coming from the side and coming from the bottom because I thought it looked kind of cool. I can always go back to my brush tool, to that point, and I can choose to get rid of, and so what I have here is just showing me the mask.
She's not actually
the adjustment is. And I can actually see, okay, so I want to adjust this as I highlight my brush over. I missed some points by her eyes, so I can go back in.
Yeah, that's another really nice feature about Lightroom too, though, is that it is non-destructive. There's a lot of other softwares out there that aren't like that, right? That do a lot of these things.
So for quick adjustments, proofing, people that are really far away. So if I was taking pictures of someone and it was a couple way down the path, and I wasn't really close to them, but I did want to just give it a little bit of softening, I could use something like this. It would work very, very well. Or in a situation like this, doing like maybe a business headshot where you're not doing a fashion picture. They don't want it to look maybe a little unrealistic. You could use the Lightroom idea, or very easily jump over to the Photoshop side and do a similar adjustment.
And again, the Lightroom Photoshop bundle, they kind of go in tandem. You
Absolutely.
buy them together, even for like $10 American a month, you can get the whole package. So
yeah, and it works super well, and it comes automatically set up so that if you're in Lightroom and you right-click and you edit in, you can edit in Photoshop.
You can even open as a smart object in other ways as well.
Exactly. Now, the other nice thing is, let's say I'm done editing this picture, and just to make sure that I can tell the pictures apart, I'm going to draw a happy face. So if I'm done, effectively what I can do is I go into Lightroom, I do my skin softening, my computer potentially crashes. That's what the spinning beach ball means, right?
Yeah.
There we go. And I save my picture. Oh, I don't want to replace it. Let's call this edit 2. And I save. That's fine. I might have saved it as a PSD, but that's fine too. And if I come back to Lightroom, it should exist beside my original image. And it's not going to. Or it is, because everything's crashing.
Yeah.
Yep. Things are happening. It should be showing up. That's not it.
In theory, when you save in Photoshop, it applies those adjustments directly into Lightroom.
Well, it'll create a new file beside the one you are originally working on, but I'm not quite... There it is. Not sure why that took so long to show up.
It takes forever.
So I have my original picture, which will only show very briefly. The one I've edited in Photoshop before, and then my one I just edited in Photoshop now. So Lightroom will help keep track of everything, and it'll make it easy for us to jump back and forth. Now, if we like other software, we like Capture One, for example, you can edit in Capture One if you wanted to. Both softwares are very similar, so I'm not quite sure why you do that, but hey, why not?
Well, some people like Blake like to use them all.
Yeah, have a little bit of everything.
There you go.
And jumping back to you, you can see the notes that I give my students on the left-hand side there, or right-hand side for those of you keeping track.
Lovely. All right. Thanks, Phil. That was good stuff.
You're welcome.
And I'm just going to quickly go to the notes or to there. Get Obama. Ooh, that would be Navi Noom is watching. She says, hola. Yeah, she's weird like that. That's cool. Navi's watching. So no pressure on anybody, Yeah,
she's just sitting there quietly cringing. She's like, so much faster to do that.
All right, Michael, you are up, buddy. And before we go any further, though, if anybody has any questions about the high pass sharpening or anything like that, just go right ahead and let us know. I'm still monitoring the chat there.
And if you want, I can post notes on high pass sharpening because I made it already, so it's not like I have to do anything extra. It's okay now. It was just before.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Michael?
Okay, we are now on Blendif.
We've been like talking. Michael's just sitting there watching. Like, I know this stuff. I
was editing the whole time.
All right,
the whole time trying to get this together for you. All right.
Blendif is potentially a time saver, and I'm thinking for what I do at the portraits of wrestlers, if you can save me 45 minutes editing each shot, man, that would be money.
Find out soon.
Let's check it out.
Blendif has a lot of cool functions, but I'm going to open this guy up right here. Now, this is going to be the main photo that I'm going to be working on to show you the real-world functions of Blendif. But first, I'm going to hop over. Oh, what is going on now? Of course, now it decides to cause me trouble. Okay.
It's like trying to save.
I'm going to get this. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to pull up this right here. This is going to be a super simple version of talking about the Blendif tool. What we're going to talk about here is actually the Blendif tool is when you create a layer that, let's go solid color. Let's make a red layer. If you double click on the layer that you're working on, you pull up this layer style dialog, and right in the blending options.
Sorry to jump in. Is there any way you could zoom that in?
I do not know.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a terrible monitor for showing this.
It's okay.
So you'll have to bear with me. When you get the layer style window here from double clicking on a layer, you're going to see blend if at the bottom down here. Now, normally that's set to gray. And when it's set to gray, that just means that you're only looking at the brightness overall values of the image. And you're going to see two sliders. You'll have this layer, an underlying layer. This layer, you're not really going to get much effect because there's no shades in a flat red layer. So I'll talk about that afterwards. But what we're going to do is look at the underlying layer. And what that means for this is the blended function is telling the layer that you're working on right now how it's going to interact with what's underneath it. So when it has the underlying layer, it has its shadow and highlight sliders. What this is saying is this is my threshold of what information underneath I'm going to talk with, in which case if I bring this in, I'm not going to communicate with the shadow side. So if I tuck this slider in, it's pulling away from the shadow area of the image underneath and only affecting the highlights. Alternatively, if I pull in the highlights side, it's only going to affect the shadows and not touch the highlights.
So it's similar to the masking tool.
Yeah. So, and also similar, if you hold the Alt key or Option on a Mac, you can actually grab one of those sliders and feather it, and it's going to give you a softer effect.
Lovely.
And same on the other side. And now, to make it a little bit easier to see, I also have a little effect here, posterize, knock it down into individual swatches. And again, I'll go into the blend if, and you can see individually each shade of gray it pulls back from. And now a nice thing is if I only want to interact with a certain shade of gray, then I can pull in from both sides, and now only those tones are being isolated. And I can reverse it. If I want to avoid the midtones, I can choose either side. Now, all of this has its uses depending on what you want to do with it. Another aspect of it that I haven't played too much with is, let me see here. Let's play with this. We have the green and red and blue channels. Now, if I use the red channel and I pull back from that, this is a completely red layer. The second I move the highlight slider, it's gone. But if I pull underneath that, I'm going to pull away from the reds, or from the black underneath. Do I even have black underneath? I have emptiness. I'm going to skip right past that because I don't mess with that section as much. But let's get back to my actual photo. I'll show you an actual reasonable function of this. If I've got this image right here, we have a nice black background all around him. And so I'll get to the black background next, but what we're going to look at right here, a nice little trick, is just these shadows on the shirt. If I wanted to darken these shadows without affecting anything else in the image, what I can do is make a curves layer and pull that down. And what you'll see is everything is getting darker, but it's dragging everything down. I can bring the highlights back up to meet it, but it's going to change the overall contrast of the image. It's going to fade that shadow that I've created. And it's going to change sort of the overall behavior, change the contrast, and it's not really what I'm going for with this.
So, but just so I don't get everybody too lost, what you just did was in the layers palette, you literally just made changes.
I went into the adjustment layers, I opened a curves layer, and I just grabbed a part on this graph here by the shadow side on the left and dragged it down, and that makes the image darker.
So you're basically showing what not to do.
I'm showing the starting point and how only doing this doesn't really work nicely. But when you're focusing only on the areas that you want affected, what we can do is open up this blend div layer. Now I want to say I only want to affect the darker areas of this. I want to affect the shadows. I don't want it to darken the highlights. So I'd go to the underlying layer and I pick the highlights threshold and pull it back. Now, normally if I'm just grabbing the highlights, it's very choppy. You get sort of areas around here that don't really render very nicely. So what I'm going to do is Alt-click and feather that out and pull it back and just find a spot where I'm still getting that darkness that I want, but I'm not pulling away from the highlights too much. Now you can see this is brighter, but if I turn off this layer and on again, you can see I'm not doing much to the highlight areas of this shirt, but I'm significantly darkening the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Now the downside to this is I'm still affecting the shadow area everywhere else. So one extra thing I can do is I only want to affect that soft shadow. I can actually Alt-click or Option-click the shadow side and feather that in just a touch and soften the areas that I'm affecting here. And now it doesn't bring his black suspenders all the way down to black like they were earlier. The shadows under his arms and on the side here aren't going completely to black. I can bring that back a bit and it's much softer and more realistic. It still brings me to the middle of the face here. The issue with blend diff is depending on what you're going to be doing, you're still going to need a layer mask. The benefit, though, of using it is rather than always painting away the areas that you want to be affected and not affected, that would be really, really tedious and take a long time to do. And the shirt, if I wanted to isolate every single shadow that I wanted to darken, or using a dodge and burn layer where you're individually painting in areas that you want highlighted or darkened, takes a lot more time. This you can do in a few seconds just by saying, I only want to affect the shadows here in this way. Then we can go back up with a brush and a layer mask, and by creating a layer mask, I just decide generally targeting certain areas of the layer that I want to interact with what's underneath it. And I can just gently paint that away. And now that curves layer isn't affecting this area. When we look at that overall, I've got everything darkened where I want it and not getting in the way where I don't want it. Now you can actually get much more creative afterwards by, let me pull this away now. You can do that. And then by also selecting the blend if, I can create another curves layer. If you go into the channels of the curves layer, you can do a solid layer. I tend to do curves for some reason. If you go into the channels, you can select the blue channel and just drag that all the way up on the curves, and it's going to make, from black, it's going to make everything solid blue, or you can do any other color that you want. And what I'm doing here is I'm making another blend if function. This is one that I've already edited. And I'm pulling down away from the highlights. And that's already masked. Let me disable that quickly. Okay, now I can show you. I'm pulling down because when I bring this up, I'm bringing all of the shadows up into blue. But that's affecting all of the dark areas here. So what I want to do is bring this highlight threshold down so it's not hitting everything, and feather that out. And it's only going to get me so far. And what I'm looking for with this is if I want to cut out the background, zoom into these edges and you can see I'm completely losing everything on the shadow side into this blue, but I've got a really nice soft edge here because it's only affecting the dark background. I want to bring the highlights down so it's not affecting everything, but I don't want this crunchy edge coming up now where it's selecting what isn't completely black, because that just doesn't really look very attractive. So I want to pull back on those highlights and then grab the feather and push in a bit. And I want to get just that little bit of softness in there, have that soft edge. And that's your halfway point when you're editing an image like this. And again, you're going to have to go back to masking. But now I've given myself an area to draw inside the lines. And that's going to render really nicely rather than trying to actually trace the outside of his body and have that perfect selection. This is giving me a really nice soft selection. Again, in only a few seconds once you get used to this tool. The benefit to that, a few steps ahead, if I skip ahead here with some other tricks I can do, is I'll show you this here. You can actually turn that into a mask and mask him out. And I just went for the first photos that I found. So I have a few of my low-res shots from when we shot the computer for that challenge. You can just make a little mask and completely place him into any other image. So the blend if tool is your starting point for a lot of interesting techniques you can use. But as a starting point, it really, really speeds up the process by helping you isolate certain areas of an image that you want to work with and only work on those sections.
I like that. I did not know that tool existed.
That is awesome. I have to admit, I get lost very easily when we start talking about layers. So I will have to watch you do this another 15 times. But the beauty of this show is we've recorded it, so I can go back and watch it back and follow along after the fact.
This, I'll admit, this is a very new technique for me still, and I'm still just getting used to it and making use of it. It's been a huge upgrade to my workflow. But for anyone watching, please ask questions. Please point anything out that's getting to you or confusing you, or if I went over something too quickly. This is still new for me to learn, let alone for me to teach. So if anyone has any questions, I'd love to spend a little more time on it and help you out.
Cool. Well, I mean, you've done so much work on this presentation, and some of the things you've told me that you're going to be covering on November 6th. I'm excited, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that the people that come to your session are just going to, like you say, this is one tool added so much to your workflow.
Yeah.
When you combine that with all the other stuff you're going to be getting into, it's going to be awesome.
This is just a little bit of play right now, but a little bit of a sneak peek of what kind of compositing you can do in my class. I may be using some of these images.
Ooh.
And being able to blend all of these characters together, overlap them really nicely, and the most exciting part for me to learn, let alone for me to teach, I think the hair cut out nicely. There is no argument there for anything behind it. That hair came out nice and clean.
See, that's what I need to learn. There's one wrestler specifically, Jay's Hart, and he's got long hair like the girl does, and it's very thin. And in every photo, that wild hair is just, it would add so much, but then I end up having to blend out the edges, and I don't get that detail that you have there.
Yeah. So
that's excellent.
There are lots of tricks. There's a million ways to edit every photo, but I'm going to show you several of them.
Excellent.
And how to pick out which one would be the best approach depending on the image you're working on.
It's going to be a great session. I do recommend that people check it out, daytripperphoto.com. It is on the 2016 schedule because the 2017 schedule is now up as well. At the end of this month, I hope to have a brand new website up, new layout, new template. So it should be fun. Hopefully it'll be a little easier to find everything. Since I built this one website that we have now, there's been so many extra options that Daytripper's added to our repertoire with the how-to hangouts and with all of the little things that we do, the one-on-ones and having the studio and all this stuff. So the website's kind of just, everything's crammed in. It doesn't look very clean. So hopefully that'll be fixed shortly. And the 2017 schedule's up, but you've got to dig in to find Michael's. For those of you who already have the link, great. If you don't have the link, I've posted it to the community, and there will be an email blast going out shortly about it. We've just been working on it, actually. In fact, Michael, stick around for a few seconds afterwards. I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
Cool. Anyway, is there anything else that you guys wanted to add to the conversation, to the edit talk? I think we covered quite a bit today.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So we do have to remind everybody about the current photo challenge. Yep. And the challenge is fall. And this is something you can absolutely use composite technology on, or editing composite technology. It's like I'm talking about making carbon fiber materials or something. Anyway, so you can absolutely use composite photography to create something for fall. I think that would be really cool to see. Or not. It could be anything. I mean, everybody's going right now to Algonquin Park for all the color and all the detail. I mean, literally, I have a tree right on my street that is pure red right now. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing some of the other fall photos that people share with us. And again, the photo challenge, the third quarter photo challenge, is next Wednesday. The third quarter, the 19th of October, next Wednesday night, 1 week away. You have 1 week to earn some points and get yourself up there to win the awesome stuff that we're giving away. We do have a quote, though. Phil, why don't you read the quote of the week?
Will do. So our quote of the week is, when you photograph people in color, you photograph their clothes. When you photograph people in black and white, you photograph their souls. That's Ted Grant, or Dr. Ted Grant, potentially.
And for some reason, Ted Grant in my head is reminding me of like an old sitcom when he was like he ran a newspaper.
Okay.
Ed Asner, I think, was him. Anyway, I'm old. I'm old enough to know about it and young enough to not really remember it. I think that's the thing. Anyway, guys, it was fun tonight. I think we had a lot of topics that we covered, a lot of cool stuff, and I hope you guys got something out of tonight's show. I know that it was fun watching, being a part of it, because I learned a few things from each of you guys. And I really hope that everybody who was actually watching on the sidelines got something out of it too. Okay, so Ivan asks, one photo only. Yes, one photo only for this photo challenge. We're keeping it simple, not 20 photos like we had for the naked photography or creating whatever. We will be, after we do the composite class, the next photo challenge is actually going to be composite photography. So, no, movie poster, I think we talked about.
Movie poster, CD, magazine, something like that.
That was going to be after the class. We'll do the movie poster, yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to give everybody the tools to do it if you register for the class, and then we're going to issue the photo challenge for the weekly challenge, and it should be fun. Maybe I'll do something. I've not done composite photography. It's not my thing. I'm not super techie. Like, even editing, pretty much all that I've learned about editing is from Ross, Navi, Pete McKinnon, a little bit from Nathan Reeder at work once. So, I mean, it's all just trial and error and playing around with stuff. And Gabriel taught me some stuff. So it's really neat. A little bit here, a little bit there. I went to some Kelby training. I did the online stuff a little bit. But school and me, it just doesn't work.
I can say, with your love for light painting, one of the techniques that I'm going to be teaching, I think you'll like the most.
Is that where you're layering?
You might end up using, light sculpting, light layering. It would just hugely complement what you already do.
I'm definitely going to learn that, and I'm really anxious to get into that. But at the same time, in my mind, I think a long exposure is light layering.
It is. It's like doing it outside of software. It's analog layering.
Because I've done 200-300-second exposures where you're literally just putting one color on top of another color and blending this color with that color, and not just a 30-second exposure where you blip, 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 done, right? So, but
the difference being you are strictly adding into the exposure when you do a long exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with light sculpting, your focus is adding to it, but you're allowing yourself sections to take away. For example, the Chrysler photo that I showed a while back, I'm adding in lights from all these different angles, but I'm taking away evidence that the light was there. I'm taking away all the reflections from the car. So you get to create more impossible situations that you couldn't strictly do with a long exposure.
Interesting. Very cool. Well, it's all a new challenge, and I'm very anxious to try it. So thank you, Michael. Awesome work. Phil, thank you, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. That's pretty much it for us tonight. We hope to see you next week for a photo review for the Photo Challenge Fall. After that, we are going to have another tips and techniques show because I got the past 2 weeks mixed up. That's what I do. Today was supposed to be banter, and it ended up being tips and techniques. Last week was supposed to be, but it doesn't matter. We covered some good stuff.
We do have a question in the comments, and that is, where is the composition class being held?
It is being held at V-Loft Studio.
So Main Street, Newmarket.
Main Street, 206 Main Street, south in Newmarket. The entrance is on 474 Botsford. The Loft Studio is a 5-person partnership that I co-own with Navi Noom, Gabriel Bousquet, Joseph Leduc, and our buddy Robert Schindelheim. The 5 of us basically have the space, and I use it for all my day trips. I've done some portrait sessions with Navi, liquid art with Joe Leduc, and I've done my photo reviews and all that there. It's just a beautiful space. It's a 140-year-old building, original hardwood floors, great space to focus and concentrate and be creative, and love it. Love it, love it, love it. Very excited. So that's where this class is being held. That's actually the last class of 2016 from Daytripper Photo. There's no more. That's the end of our season, folks, which means get your gift certificates. Christmas is coming. Holidays are coming. If you have any ideas, if you know anybody who likes photography and you want to get them some education, sign up for some of our classes. Buy a gift certificate. It's good for any session. Register for a specific session. Send you a gift card. Book some private time, one-on-one or in groups. We can do it all at the studio. It's a beautiful spot. Check it out. theloftstudio.ca. I don't know why I made that sound. I never make that sound. But whatever. Carrie Riddell says, if you're unsure who I am, Bryan, I'm the retoucher who talks to you from time to time from Sears. Oh, very cool. Nice.
Right on.
Thanks for watching. That's really cool. Yeah.
Is
So
a retoucher going to take my composite class? That would be
It would be awesome.
Actually, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? There you go, Carrie. Check it
I'd have
out.
a challenge.
That's one thing I love about you, Michael. You really do like a challenge. You know, you issue you a challenge, bang, you just start working on it right away. This class, I think, is pushing you a little bit too, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Pushing my sleep schedule a bit too.
Well, hopefully you'll get it all wrapped up and get everything taken care of, and you can have some good rest before the session so that you show up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, so to speak. Do you ever show up bushy-tailed? That's kind of a weird expression, isn't it? Bright-eyed,
I
bushy-tailed.
don't know how to answer that.
I think it has to do with rabbits.
Everybody used to be a rabbit. We all evolved from rabbits. Didn't you know that?
Something like that.
Oh, okay, cool. I can maybe help out, Carrie says, Michael. Anywho, tell you what, Carrie, shoot us an email at Bryan@daytripperphoto.com, and I will make sure that your idea gets to the appropriate ears. In other words, Michael. All right. That's it. That's it for us, guys. Anything else you'd like to say before we say goodnight?
Keep taking pictures. Yeah, that's all I got.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that. All right. Keep taking pictures. See you guys.
See ya.